The Lucky Jackdaw. Once upon a time, there was a little girl called Fiona who lived with her aunt and her uncle. One day, she found a baby jackdaw on the ground. He had fallen from a nest in the church tower and couldn't fly back. "You poor little thing," said Fiona. "I'll take you home and look after you till you're well enough to fly away." So she took him home and found a cardboard box that she stuffed with hair. She put the little black creature into it and then went to find some bread and milk. "Good gracious," said her aunt, "whatever will you bring into the house next? You brought a stray cat last month, which stole the joint out of the larder. Last week you found a stray dog with a bad leg, and it chased our chickens as soon as it got better. Now you've got a wretched little jackdaw who will steal everything shiny and bright he can lay his beak on, as soon as he can fly." "Oh, please, auntie, let me look after him," begged Fiona, who was so kind-hearted that she really couldn't leave any small or hurt creature by itself. "I'll keep him in the shed outside, if only you'll let me look after him. I'm sure he'll fly away as soon as he's big enough." "Very well," grumbled her aunt. "I suppose you can keep it if you like, but if that bird steals any thimbles of mine, I'll punish you. So there." So Fiona kept the jackdaw in the shed outside. She had to feed it many times a day, for it was a hungry little thing. She put bread soaked with milk on the end of a pointed stick, and the small creature took it greedily. Jack grew very quickly, and soon he had a pair of strong black wings, but he didn't fly away. He was so fond of Fiona that wherever she went, he went too, and even if she went for a walk, the jackdaw flew along with her, circling around her head and calling, "Jack, Jack, 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 Jack." Then he began to be naughty. He went into the house one day and saw Fiona's aunt sewing. She put her bright thimble down for a moment, and Jack caught it up in his beak. In a second he was out of the window and had hidden the thimble in a hole right up in the thatch. "Oh, you wicked bird!" cried Fiona's aunt. "Bring me that thimble back at once. Fiona! Fiona, where are you? That jackdaw of yours has taken my thimble. I told you that's what would happen." Fiona called Jack and made him bring back the silver thimble. Then she scolded him hard, and he sat on the fence and hung his head. But it didn't make him mend his ways. Whenever he saw anything bright and gleaming, he picked it up in his beak and flew off with it. Fiona's aunt was angry, and she said she wouldn't have Jack in the shed if he didn't stop his wicked ways. Fiona was very miserable. She was fond of Jack and couldn't bear to think he might have to leave. Her aunt scolded her, not because she was a nasty lady, but because she was very worried about a lot of things. "Your uncle hasn't been able to work for a month because of his bad leg," she said, "and the hens are not laying, and the cows are not giving enough milk. Where is the money going to come from to pay the rent? Oh, I really don't know. The shoemaker wants his bill paid too. You'll have to help me a little more, Fiona, to make up for that horrible bird of yours always worrying me. I'm sure he took the money I put in the dresser yesterday." Poor Fiona. She worked hard from morning to night to help her aunt. She fed the hens and milked the cows. She looked after her uncle and did everything she possibly could. She begged her aunt not to get rid of her jackdaw, but her aunt wouldn't promise. "If only the bird would pay you back for your kindness to it," she said. "If it was a hen, it could lay eggs, but it just does nothing but steal things." Now the jackdaw knew that the aunt hated him, and he was very unhappy. He flew off by himself one day and came to a buttercup field. He fluttered down to the river that flowed through it, and as he walked down to the water to have a drink, something very bright caught his eye. It was a ring. It lay in the water near the bank and seemed to wink at him as a stream went rushing over it. Jack thought it was very pretty indeed, and he put his head into the water and pulled out the ring. It shone even more brightly. It had 3 great big shiny stones in it, and Jack pecked at them, but they were held tightly in the ring, and he could not get them out. So he decided to take the ring back home with him and show it to Fiona. Off he went. Fiona was sitting peeling potatoes with her aunt, and they were talking together. "Mr. Brown told me this morning that Lady Penelope went out on a boat on the river yesterday and lost her beautiful diamond ring," said Fiona's aunt. "I expect that will never be seen again. They say it's worth a lot of money." Is it worth as much as £100? Asked Fiona. Oh, the ring will be worth much, much, much more than that, said her aunt. Why, there's a reward of £100 offered to anyone who manages to find it. When Jack heard this, he gave such a squawk that Fiona's aunt jumped and dropped her potato knife on the floor. There's that horrible bird again, she said. I'll have someone take him away tomorrow. I really will. Jack squawked again and hopped up to her. He dropped the ring right into her lap and then stood with his head cocked on one side to see what she would do with it. The woman picked up the diamond ring and looked at it in the greatest astonishment. For a moment she could hardly speak, and then she found her tongue. Fiona, she said. Fiona, I do believe this is the ring that Lady Penelope lost. Your Jackdaw must have found it in the river. Oh, Auntie, cried Fiona in delight. Then we shall get the £100, and you can pay the rent, and the shoemaker, and the doctor, and you'll have plenty of money left over. Put on your coat and come with me to the house where Lady Penelope lives, said her aunt in great excitement. So Fiona got her cord, and then she and her aunt set out for the big house that belonged to Lady Penelope. Jack went along too, flying round their heads and shouting, Jack, Jack, as loudly as he could. For once, Fiona's aunt didn't scold him. At last they arrived at the house. The butler took them into a big room, and Lady Penelope came in to see them. As soon as she saw the ring, she cried out with joy and took it from Fiona's aunt. Oh, wherever did you find it? She cried. What part of the river was it in? Our Jackdaw found it, said Fiona. Jack, Jack, called the Jackdaw, flying to the window. Lady Penelope thought he really was the cleverest bird she'd ever seen. I found him when he was a baby, said Fiona. I looked after him till he was big, but he wouldn't fly away. He stayed with me all the time. Sometimes he is very naughty, but now he really has been very good, and we shall have to make a big fuss of him. You won't want to get rid of him now, will you, Auntie? Oh, no, said her aunt. He really has paid you back for your kindness to him, Fiona. And I must pay you your reward, said Lady Penelope. I will send the money this evening when I have been able to get it from the bank. Off went Fiona and her aunt again, very, very happy, for all their troubles were gone. The Jackdaw knew they were glad, and he shouted loudly all the way home. The money came that day. Fiona's aunt paid all her bills, bought some more hens, and a pretty new dress for herself. Fiona had 2 new dresses and a pair of shiny blue shoes. They wanted to give Jack a present too, but all they could think of was a little bit of nice fresh meat, which he ate greedily. Fiona's aunt never said another word against him. In fact, she became very, very fond of him, and after that she always let Fiona look after any stray animal or bird that she found, so the little girl was very, very happy. And as for Jack, he lives with them still. But if you go to see Fiona, be careful not to leave your money about. He's still very naughty at times.